That's all you got?
We are Jared and Stephanie and our brother Jordan. With our 3 kids, we moved to South Los Angeles in the fall of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic to start a community of faith that loves the city.
Sickness, lockdowns, Zoom school, loss of job, trying to protect family members, potentially moving to a new community, being isolated, all those things taking place over this last year. We're beginning to ask these serious questions around how do we as individuals and as a community, for the most part too, how do we begin to think about moving from isolation, from potential loneliness, to a place of wholeness?
All right, so this week was a little different. We decided to make some cookies, and there had been a few people in the neighborhood that I had either had been able to share a couple of words with over the course of the last several months that we've been here, but because of COVID hadn't really been able to connect with. And we took cookies over to their houses, knocked on the door. Zoe went with me, and we just said, hey, we have said hello before, but we just moved in the middle of COVID, and now with regulations lifting more and more, we're just trying to connect with our neighbors, and struck up a conversation. Everyone that we talked to, every door we knocked on, they were so inviting, so kind, so open and willing to chat. I was able to exchange numbers with a couple of our neighbors, and we're hopeful to be able to connect with them outside.
So I moved to LA a little over 3 months ago because I felt like God was telling me to do it. My brother Jared and his wife were starting a church, and they asked me to be a part of it. The only problem was that I loved where I lived. I had friends and family that I was really close to, and doing life with them was honestly a dream come true. My friends were everything to me, and I felt like I had everything I needed right where I was. I was in the city I grew up in, I was around the people I grew up with, and the last thing I wanted to do was leave. But Jared and Steph were offering me an amazing opportunity. It came down to one question: is Jesus the Lord of my life, or am I?
Suddenly, instead of falling, I'm falling back to the things that I've done in the past. See, I fell hard for you, now I'm confused. This happens every time, one after another, I ruin it all. I just can't help myself. It's not that I want to, I can't stop my heart from falling in out of love, of love, of love, of love. Oh, I'm falling in out of love, of love, of love, of love. Oh, I'm falling in out of love.
Now, being in LA has at times been lonely, and in moments of loneliness, I tend to turn to things that bring instant gratification and temporary moments of relief. I tend to try and silence the pain instead of working through it. But one thing I'm starting to realize is the potential that loneliness brings. Loneliness provides a shot at deeper intimacy with God that only comes through hours upon hours of being in His presence.
So there's a second opportunity when we face loneliness. The necessity of community is clearly taught throughout sacred scripture, that when we put ourselves out there to form connection, not only are we seeing the value in others, but there's the very real potential for us to be valued, seen, and known. We know that modern psychology supports this too. We need each other. And when we're in our own place of need, such as loneliness, if we're able to step out and give of our energy, our time, our care, there's a very real possibility that we will find the very thing that we were needing. This is community formation. This is generosity. This is risk. And it moves us beyond focusing on our own need to being able to seeing and reaching out to give to the needs of others. Chances are, if you're lonely, someone else in your neighborhood is too. So on our way home from school, one day we saw a whole bunch of kids sitting out in the front yard playing, and we got home
and I was talking to the kids, and we decided we should take some of those cookies over to them and see if we can meet them, see if we can see if they want to play outside sometime. And so the next day, on our way home from school, we went up to the door, knocked on the door, and just introduced ourselves and said, hey, we're new to the neighborhood. We haven't been able to get out to meet neighbors because of COVID, but now we're trying to do that. Just wondering if you would like to do a play date sometime outside on the front lawn or whatever. And they said yes. They said, we just moved into the neighborhood too. We're getting to know our neighbors, and we would love that. So today we got to have a play date on their front lawn. We brought a blanket and some games and paints. It was so much fun to see the kids getting to, introduce themselves, getting to know each other. I got to meet grandma, mom, auntie, grandpa, and then these 3 beautiful kids. It was just such a fun time. It was so much fun to meet our neighbors.
My relationship with God can flourish through loneliness. And that's the truth. Every time I experience feelings of isolation, I can always offer them up to God. And sometimes I feel them and sometimes I don't. But either way, my hope is that He's giving me exactly what I need, instead of me giving exactly what I think I need. I've been away from everything that I've called home, and honestly, it's been hard. It's been a struggle. But this season has also gifted me with a focus on Jesus that I haven't had, and that I might not have if I was somewhere else. I've been able to spend a significant time reading and praying and just waiting on Jesus. And sometimes it feels like nothing is happening or changing, but in reality, I know that my faith is growing and that my understanding of Him is actually expanding. As annoying as loneliness is, God is actually using loneliness to draw me closer to Him. And that's what He does. He's a redeemer. And honestly, I just hope that my plans, my expectations just don't get in the way of what He's trying to do.
So what is the community forming opportunity in loneliness for you? It could be taking cookies to a neighbor, or hosting a neighborhood barbecue, or maybe it's taking dinner to the guy experiencing homelessness down the street who's sleeping in front of the charter school. Or maybe it's praying for the local entrepreneur in your neighborhood, or listening to the life story of the neighbor down the street looking for a job. Take the opportunity. Loneliness is a doorway. Don't get stuck there. Walk through it to the other side.
This happens every time, one after another, I ruin it all. I just can't help myself. It's not